काश असली दुनिया भी उतनी ही सरल होती जितनी फिल्मी दुनिया दिखती है. But alas, that's not true. The UP government recently, in November 2020, passed an ordinance named Prohibition of Unlawful Conversion of Religion. This ordinance, amongst other things, targets any conversions which are based out of fraud, misrepresentation, allurement, or even marriage. They have been contended to be as void. Now, the problem with this law is that, amongst other things, it challenges a person's right to marry. In part 1 of this video, I have analyzed various Supreme Court and High Court decisions where the courts have reiterated time and again that a person's right to choose their own partner, whether marital or even sexual, is one's fundamental right under Article 21. If you haven't checked out that video already, you will find the link in the description box and you will also find it somewhere on the screen. In today's video, we try to understand this PIL that has been filed challenging the constitutional validity of the UP ordinance. This ordinance has been challenged on multiple grounds by the said petitioners, and through this video, we will try to analyze each of those challenges, and then based on the feasibility of those challenges, we will also try to predict that what is going to be the likely outcome of the Supreme Court. Before I discuss the challenges that were made to this law in the filing of the PIL, let us first understand the salient features of this law. The first and probably the most problematic provision relates to the fact that it declares marriages that are based out of fraud, coercion, collusion, conversion, or even where the purpose is solely to marry a person has been declared as void. Secondly, the burden of proof has been placed on the person undergoing the conversion, which is reverse than the ordinary law relating to burden of proof. Thirdly, it states that the offence, if so committed, is declared as a cognizable and a non-bailable offence. For the ones who do not know, a cognizable offence is one where a police can arrest, detain and investigate you even when there is no arrest warrant for the same. Fourthly, there is a procedure that if you wish or if you are desirous of getting married after you convert to a religion, you will first need to seek the approval of the district magistrate. You will have to submit a requisition in advance, at least 30 days before, based on which the DM will undertake an inquiry, and on that the said approval may or may not be granted. This law also provides that the person or the entity which is in charge of the conversion, or you can also call them as a converter, they will also have to file a declaration before the DM that the party is doing this conversion voluntarily. There are two sets of petitioners in this PIL, and hence the challenges are also twofold. The first set of petitioners is the NGO that is headed by Teesta Setalvad, named as Citizens for Justice and Peace, and the second set of petitioners are a group of advocates, namely Vishal Thakre and A.S. Yadav, and they are also joined by law researcher Pranavesh. The chief focus of the joint challenges that the petitioners have put forth relates to the very challenge to the secularism, which is an important concept enshrined in our preamble. It is considered as a social, as one of the basic epithets, has been also held as a part of the basic structure of the constitution, which this law seems to challenge. Secondly, the petitioners also consider that this law can become as a tool of abuse in the hands of unruly and chaotic people, which will lead to further disorder in the society. And thirdly, they also believe that the said ordinance is against public policy and social order. Now, as far as the constitutional validity is concerned, the ordinance has been challenged on multiple grounds. Firstly, it is said to challenge a person's rights to equality under Article 14. Secondly, it also challenges and contravenes a person's rights to life and liberty. Now, life and liberty has been interpreted by the Supreme Court in various aspects, and it has been said to include basic epithets like right to dignity, right of privacy and right of autonomy. All of these are also contended to be violated by the said ordinance. And thirdly, the petitioners contend that this also violates a person's freedom of speech and expression enshrined under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. Finally, the basic criteria also relates to violation of a person's right to religion enshrined from Article 25 to Article 28 in the Indian Constitution. The petitioners also submit that the said ordinance clearly violates previous decided Supreme Court judgments, namely the Puttaswamy judgment of 2017 and the Navtej Singh Johar judgment of 2018. Both these judgments in respective senses have reiterated that a person's right to choose their partner, whether it is a marital partner or a sexual partner, is clearly an inclusion in Article 21 of person's rights to life and personal liberty. The petitioners also submit before the court that this burden of proof that the ordinance focuses on is also a problem because it takes away and challenges an established principle of law. Additionally, the petitioners also believe that this ordinance is a reiteration and indication of the patriarchal prejudice that the society suffers from so far as the position and status of women are concerned. It has always been a problem for the society whenever a woman has gone out of her way to choose things for herself, as we saw clearly in the Hadia case as well. The petitioners also contend that another law, namely the Special Marriage Act, already allows and acknowledges marriage that can happen between different faiths. Hence, they believe that there is no reason that this ordinance should exist. Finally, the petitioner's contention rests on the fact that it also is about vilifying and trying to exact revenge from a marginalized section of the society. They believe that this law and similar laws will cause not only further marginalization of a marginalized section, but they will also directly attack this idiom of unity in diversity that India as a secular democratic republic seems to profess. Based on these multifarious contentions, the petitioners had requested the court for an injunction on the application of this ordinance. The Supreme Court, however, chose not to do so, and as a result of that, multiple arrests under this ordinance have already taken place in the state of UP. The Supreme Court also notified the two state governments along with the central government as well. As per the latest news, the UP government has filed their reply. The reply has some interesting observations. Let's look at some of them. Firstly, the government believes that they're basically trying to make this law for the purposes of public interest and social order. The government believes that when a person chooses to convert in order to marry, most of the time they do it not out of a free will, but only because they want to get married to that particular person. This directly attacks a person's right to dignity and a right to choose and continue professing their own religion. Secondly, the government also believes that when a person converts to another religion, howsoever voluntarily, is not able to do so in a very comfortable manner, because they have to undo whatever learnings they have about their religion, their faith, and they have to imbibe the religion that they are going to convert into. And finally, the government also believes that the state has a duty to stop any forceful or illegal conversions that may happen in the garb of marriage. The state believes it is its duty to strike a balance between right to liberty and the right to a conscience, which will allow an individual to choose a religion and to profess it as per the fundamental right enshrined under Article 25. The state believes that community rights will always trump individual rights in order to ensure that the societal balance and order is maintained. Let us look at the Supreme Court's reaction to this petition. The first time when the matter came for hearing, the Supreme Court was very wary of accepting this petition, and it already asked the petitioners as to why did they not move their respective high courts. It was brought to the court's notice that such petitions were already before various high courts that were being challenged, and hence, since this involved multiple states, Supreme Court was the right authority to choose. The petitioner had requested the court to grant an injunction on the application of the ordinance. The Supreme Court, however, refused to do so because it stated that under Article 32, which the parties had moved the court under, such a relief could not be granted. And finally, as a last resort, the Supreme Court had notified the two state governments of UP as well as Uttarakhand along with the central government. It is likely that the Supreme Court is going to strike off the said ordinance in question. As already mentioned, grounds of violating multiple fundamental rights are serious grounds. In addition, the Supreme Court will also have to decide in what way, if at all it wants to, can it overrule the judgments given in the Puttaswamy and the Navtej Singh Johar judgment. By the look of it, it is very likely that the Supreme Court is going to quash the constitutional validity of the said law and is going to hold that this ordinance does violate a person's various fundamental rights provided and protected under the Indian Constitution. We will, however, have to wait until the month of February to see which way the Supreme Court is going to go. As far as my take on this issue is concerned, I believe that anti-conversion laws in isolation is a good thing. We all know that India as a country still grapples with forceful conversions, especially when various mass conversions take place, especially targeting the marginalized or the poverty-driven section of the society. I also believe that such anti-conversion laws also try to strike down any possible situations where minor girls who are more vulnerable are, people try to take an advantage and they try to convert them in order to persuade them to marriage. Another problem that I believe that this law also suffers from is that it uses various terms probably for the first time in legal language. However, the definition of such terms has not been provided. One such term is allurement, which the law uses but does not seek to define. And finally, I also believe that for coming of any law or any law as an ordinance, there has to be some basis to it. The committee, interestingly, which formed the basis for submitting this report, as a result of which this ordinance came into existence, did not specify about any particular religion or it did not target any particular religion. However, we all understand that this law indeed tends to target a particular section. That's all from my side. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something new. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. Please share this video and subscribe to my channel, Legal Banter. I post regular videos every week, so don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching.